Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Potato, 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 potato.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Welcome into Rip City Retro. My name is Rich Finley. Joining me here as sometimes is Eric Brandt. And if you are new here, you're in the majority. There's not a lot of people that watch, but you know we'll try and do better. Eric, how are you?
It's going to change soon.
Yeah, it's gonna change. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, getting ready for some. Hang on, I've got it. I've got it written here on my phone. Post-season basketball.
Oh,
Yes, I'm very excited about the play-in. Go ahead.
there was some debate in our post-game show last night about whether it's called postseason basketball or not, the play-in.
It is kind of purgatory, right? I mean,
It is after the regular season.
Yeah.
It doesn't count as playoff stats, so it is like a weird...
I'm trying to pause when I say post-season, whereas I think the playoffs are the postseason, you know? But,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of in that funky little in-between. Obviously, I mean, I had my intro at the top about the hot potato, and what made me think of that opening was really just about the Clippers and Blazers last week, because it really seemed last week like, does nobody want this? Like, nobody wants this, right? Like, nobody wants the 8th seed. But then finally, Blazers took care of business in the game against the Clippers. I was thoroughly impressed. I mean, not to do like, you know, major breakdowns of the last two games of the regular season, but I was thoroughly impressed with how the Blazers took it to the Clippers on Friday night, in particular in that first quarter. You know, I'm noticing that even when the team is excelling, they do have, it's odd that they have a little bit of a tendency to get bored with the game and kind of drift outwards. Like when going to the hole and drawing fouls is working so well, they're like, this isn't fun. So, you know, there's a little bit of that, you know, we need to shore up. But I was really happy that they finished the season well and got the 8th seed. And now we play Phoenix on Tuesday. This video will probably go out late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. So now that we're on game day in the future, what are you expecting for the play-in game on Tuesday night?
I'm expecting a good game. Obviously, the Suns have had a really good season.
With what they've had to work with, sure.
Yeah. I think the Blazers can definitely win this game. They're a team that does thrive off of turnovers and things like that, so the Blazers are going to have to be very careful not to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Like they have all season. That's been a huge problem for them. But they also have opportunity to possibly get on the offensive glass, which has been a strength of theirs. And, you know, this game might just come down to whatever team shoots the best, because if the Blazers shoot well from three, they're pretty hard to beat. It looks like Jeremy Grant was listed as questionable.
Oh.
If he plays, that means that for the first time all season, minus Dame, that we will have a fully healthy roster. That'd be crazy for the play-in game.
In game 83.
Yes, game 83, exactly.
Wow.
I mean, that would really help the rotation a lot. I don't know how much he'd be able to play, but
well, I mean, it guarantees you 2 or 3 rebounds right off the spot. You know,
I don't know if it guarantees you 2 or 3. One definitely.
One for sure. One for sure.
But yeah, the Blazers obviously need to make some 3-point shots. They need to get to the foul line.
Yeah.
And then they need to figure out the defense. They can't be giving up open threes on the other end. And so I'm very, very interested to see how they come out and play in this one.
Yeah, I think controlling tempo is going to be huge tomorrow, so or tonight, whenever you're watching this. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited going into the postseason. There's some matchups that I'm really looking forward to in the East bracket. I'm really looking for. I don't know why, but I'm really looking forward to the Knicks and the Hawks. Like, I mean, CJ obviously, but
CJ playing the Trae Young role.
yeah. Well, like CJ's I talked about this on the channel last week, but CJ's surrounded by athletic defenders. He he doesn't have to play out of position. He's not having to be a facilitator or point guard. He could just kind of be CJ, and that's a really good spot for him. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited to watch them play the Knicks. So I think it's going to be fun. Let's just jump right to the chase of what today's video is about, because I don't want to bury the lead, and we're going to be back here. Actually, we're going to do 2 videos in a week, never to be repeated again. But
Till next week,
right? But we wanted to do a preview video of the Jailblazers. So Netflix has the Jailblazers documentary coming out at about midnight tonight, and you won't be watching because you have a job. So you will probably be watching this tomorrow before the playing game. I'm probably gonna watch it tonight at midnight. But we wanted to get on here and just do a little bit of a preview of what we think the documentary is going to be like, our predictions, what we're hoping to see, and then people can come back on Thursday by the time we've had a chance to watch it and get together and film on Wednesday. And then you could come back here on Thursday and make fun of us for being wrong, or, whatever our predictions ended up being. But when did you first hear about this documentary? Did this sneak up on you? Because Netflix does a pretty good job of kind of sneaking up on people. They're like, hey, there's this thing and it's already in the can and it's coming.
It was a while ago. There was this has been a long rumored documentary for a while. Nothing concrete, but I've heard little rumblings about there possibly being 30 for 30 or that type of thing for
I'm surprised that
years.
Never happened. Yeah.
So I wasn't really surprised when I heard it. But there was I think there was like a 3 documentary set that Netflix announced. I forgot what they were calling it, Untold or something like that. And it was all sports related. And so, yeah, it was several months ago that I heard the Jailblazer era one was going to be one of the 3 they chose to focus on. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. At the same time, yeah, having lived it, kind of have some skepticism about how, when you hear one side from it, how they're going to take it. So we'll see. When did you first hear about it?
Literally with the trailer. Like it
Oh, really?
Well, I've got so much other stuff going on that I don't catch a lot. So,
or you might have heard it and then forgot it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was alluding to. That's what I was alluding to. But I wanted to ask you, where does this era, because we've been friends now for about 4 years or so, but we've never really talked about the Jailblazer era. Not that we would like, those were the good old days. But like, where does that era of the Blazers, not necessarily like where does it rank with you, but like, where do you put it? Because I feel like a lot of people sometimes they lump in the 2000 loss in Game 7, and they think that that's the Jailblazer era or part of the Jailblazer era. And I guess, I mean, if you squint and look at the rosters, like, you know, many of the same players that are involved in some of the chicanery that comes up later is on the team. But, you know, those first couple of years of Pippen on the team, that's not really the Jailblazers. So, like, how do you look at that era, especially, you know, as I've said many times on this channel, I grew up in West Virginia. I've been a Blazers fan for almost 40 years. I was the only Trailblazers fan in school. When they lost a big game, like, everybody just, you know, like, made fun of me and teased me and stuff like that. Um, and then I moved out here after college to Los Angeles, where I live, which is a whole other story, being surrounded by Laker fans. But I was living in LA when the era was going on. So, as somebody who was in the town at the time, like, what was that like? Because I was just getting like Jason Quick stories and, you know, JC and, you know, that kind of, not Jesus Christ, but John Casano. And, you know, like, please don't get it confused. Nor the person sitting in the Oval Office. He is not JC either. So, you know, if you know, you know. It's in the news. Anyway, but like, how how did that era of the Blazers hit you at that time?
Excuse me. It hit me and most Blazer fans, I would say, pretty hard. And it's interesting because you mentioned like when does the era begin, and there were some incidents that get included in it, um, like J.R. Ryder and stuff like that, who weren't on the team.
Right.
They were traded and gone by the time Pippen was here. So, I mean, he was traded in the Steve Smith trade when Pippen, the same offseason as Pippen. So he wasn't even technically on the Jailblazers team.
He was gone, right?
But like, I include him with the Jailblazers.
Oh, you do?
Stuff
you do?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I mean, well, they'll probably talk about this in the documentary.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, because maybe they won't because it's beforehand. But I mean, he got caught. I think there was another. I forget which teammate it was, but they got caught. I don't know if they were in their car or something, or under a bridge or something, like smoking out of a pop can.
Oh, I think I remember that now.
And that kind of, in my mind, that's like the beginning of the Jailblazers era.
Okay.
So like, I do kind of include everything that happened, because 2 years after that, you know, we lost in the conference finals. We trade for Sean Kemp. We trade Brian Grant for Sean Kemp, right, in the 2000 off season. And I mean, there were all kinds of rumors about Sean Kemp doing cocaine in the locker room and stuff like that.
He was already coming to the team with like a ton of kids. Not that there's, you know, anything wrong with that. I think Danny Ainge did the exact same thing, just for the record.
But there was a lot of those media members you mentioned. I mean, they didn't come out and write articles about it, but they implied that they saw players doing hard drugs in the locker room at halftime at games and things like that. So that was while Pippen was here still. So like, I do kind of include that team. I think it's unfair to maybe include the 99-2000 team, but they also, like you mentioned, several of those players, Bonzi, Sheed, Damon in particular, who just went on that podcast the other day with Matt Barnes and spoke about the documentary and stuff. I mean, those guys all stayed for several years on the team through the Jailblazer era. So it's hard to just like say, oh no, that doesn't count because they made the Western Conference Finals and almost won a championship. So
well, and then you've got Telfair coming late. Like, the Jailblazer era is kind of over, but then Sebastian Telfair comes in. So but anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. But just the era in a whole, I don't know how to put this, Rich, other than for the first time in Blazer franchise history, the city became somewhat ashamed of their team. And until that point, almost every Blazer fan would have 100% backed any player, any team.
Yeah.
Those were our guys. It didn't matter skin color. It didn't matter, you know, what had happened. I mean, there wasn't a lot of incidents. I mean, we can talk about that on the next time we film some of the things that happened. You mentioned an incident in a prior video we did that happened in Utah, possibly involving an underage woman or something.
I was heart. That was in 1993. For those who don't know what
Yeah.
we're talking about, I was heartbroken when that stuff came out, and I didn't even know who was involved or whatever. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh no, not my
Mhm.
my Portland Trailblazers. Like, it hurt.
So there were things that happened like that, but for the most part, I mean, it was something that we never really had to deal with, is like people getting in trouble while members of the Portland Trailblazers. And so to have it like start this era where it continually comes up, and I mean, I'm expecting it to not be presented this way, but it got to the point where living in Portland, you just expected to wake up and read a new thing that happened in the paper. And um you can say it was not a big deal or whatever, but it sucked to root for a team that continually broke the law or got in trouble or signed players that had done stuff like rape their nanny and things like that. So it became hard to like juggle your fandom of, oh, I'm Blazer fan till I die, bleed black and red. Like I would do anything for this team. I'm gonna. It became like,
I would post
do I
bail for this team.
yeah, do I really want to root for these guys? Like, and then, you know, a lot of them were very disrespectful to fans too, and fans that would also like never think anything bad of them or cross them. They just came in with this notion that Portland was a racist city or whatever, which I think is going to be prevalent. If I'm predicting, that's going to be a theme of the show, is that they're going to paint it as kind of a Portland was a white city and didn't accept you know, all these black people coming in, and that was the problem, not that they were bad people or said bad things or did bad things.
I mean, you know, truth be told, it was a lot whiter in the early 90s with Drexler, Porter, Kersey, Buck Williams, Duckworth. And, you know, I think it was a multi-layered, it was almost like a perfect storm of things that happened. And I hope that the doc gets into the complexity of the moment in terms of the city of Portland and an NBA franchise, because we as a fan base were really spoiled by the early 90s teams. We didn't win a championship, but it was a really good group of guys. And like the worst things that you would hear would be like, Drexler is late to practice. Like, you know, and it would be upsetting. It would be like, why can't Clyde just make it to practice? You know what I mean? So, you know, when you're hearing stories about, you know, Terry Porter and Buck Williams have Bible study before every game, and, you know, just like all these different stories about what good guys they are. They were also visible in the community. You've talked many times about seeing Cliff Robinson out and about and seeing Jerome and Terry and all those guys. I think that the the city, and I say this as somebody who doesn't live there, but I was feeling this from thousands, and then when the Jailblazer era was going on, hundreds of miles away in Los Angeles, I feel like some of this is the drastic shift from an era that was incredibly successful with also really good guys that just didn't get in trouble, and then to a group that um for lack of a better term, I think the disappointment in the on-court product started before a lot of this legal stuff started happening. Does that is that fair? Is that fair to say? Like, we lose game 7, we have the flame
Yeah.
out, we have the flame out in 2001 where we're in first place before the Drexler jersey retirement game. You're welcome, take a drink. Um and the wheels came off that season, and then it kind of felt like we as fans, it's almost like we believed more in the team than the team did, in terms of like we saw them as championship material, and then we were getting disappointed, and not just disappointed with losing in game 7 to the Lakers, but like then after that first round flameouts a couple of years in a row when we had a really talented roster. And I know for myself, we texted each other after we both saw the trailer, and we had some initial thoughts, and you shared that one that you just shared about, I wonder if they're going to go in this direction and kind of go the community didn't understand us as players and so on and so forth.
To be fair, I said that before I saw the trailer.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, when you saw the trailer, you must be like, I'm
Yeah.
you should go buy lottery tickets or something. But
Well, it's pretty obvious.
well,
One of the angles.
well, see, you were living there though, so I wasn't sure. But I'm really curious to see how much they go into the Bob Whitsitt of it all, because for those fans out there
I'm not a
who,
chemistry major.
yeah, that very famous quote that he was acquiring all these players, many players who were former All-Stars, used to heavy minutes, and he's just acquiring as many players as possible. And he basically said, I leave it to the coaching staff to work out the minutes. And somebody asked him, what about chemistry? And then he very famously said, well, I'm not a chemistry major. Like, Bob Whitsitt really thought that talent would overcome like any, like I guess he thought that like chemistry was a farce, like just acquire the most talent possible and you're going to be successful. And he had some success with that in Seattle, acquiring a lot of talent with the Supersonics, and they went to the finals once, but they kind of underachieved themselves a bit. So yeah, I really want to see them lean into Whitsitt a bit. So it's kind of one of these things. Like, going into the doc, I kind of think everybody deserves a little bit. I think the media does deserve to be looked at a little bit, because let's face it, Jailblazers, it's funny, right? Like, it rhymes, it's funny, it works. It's
That was
also,
the perfect. Yeah.
yeah, it's the perfect nickname. It's just the perfect nickname. But I also think that analyzing how Quick and Canzano and all those guys looked at the team, covered the team, I think that's fair. I also think to look at the players, and analyze what they were doing, I think that's fair. And then I really hope that it goes into coaching. How much influence, or how much focus can you put on Mike Dunleavy, then Mo Cheeks, like all of these kind of things. Like, I really hope that it's explored across the board, and not just to focus on, hey, marijuana is not a big deal anymore, like all that kind of stuff. Like, I really hope it's just um just multi-layered. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. And I was concerned.
Yeah.
I was concerned with the Matt Barnes podcast the other day that you referenced, with Bonzi and Damon and Rashid, because they kept talking about, you get to see the real story, and how it was really no big deal. Like, I do
Mhm.
remember seeing that, and I was like, "Oh, man." Like, if it's just from a player's perspective, which is fair, like, we need the player's perspective for a Jailblazers doc. That wouldn't be fair to not have it. But, like, I don't know, man. I hope it's across the board.
Yeah, what I'm looking for and what I'm afraid I'm not going to get is the players having the awareness to understand how they came across as well, and not just be like, "Oh, well, everyone hated me in Portland because 'cause I'm black," or whatever, or "I'm from the streets," or you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to just use that excuse. I want them to also recognize, well, you came in here, if you're a Rasheed Wallace, kinda hostile towards, um, like, white reporters,
Mhm.
and wouldn't talk to anyone but one reporter, and, um, didn't really treat the fans with much respect. Bonzi was terrible towards the fans,
Yeah. I remember
and
Bonzi had the quote. I think that quote, I mean, when it comes to, like, Jailblazers stuff, I I mean, at the top of the list to me, and it's funny because the transgressions didn't even happen here, but the Ruben Patterson stuff is at the top of the
Mhm,
list, like the most disgusting stuff. Right below that,
yeah,
you've got the Quintel Woods dogfighting stuff. Um,
which pretty sure other teammates were involved too. It
uh,
just they made Quintel Woods take the fall, which is part of the problem as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So, but I remember, like, it's gonna sound so stupid, but I remember taking it really hard when Bonzi had that quote that was like, "We don't really care
Mhm.
about the fans." Not that I was
Yeah.
delusionally thinking, "Oh, they love us. Like, they love us so much," you know? But again, this just goes back to a different time and a different, generation of players, but also not only that, but again, celebrating and having a really special group in Clyde, Buck, Terry, Jerome, um, eh, that and Kevin, uh, in which they were constantly talking about the community and the team, and we need our fans. We've got the loudest fans in the NBA with the smallest arena, like all those kind of things. Like, it was just this love affair back and forth. And I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, dude, I was a kid. I had Clyde Drexler on my wall and Terry Porter on my wall, and I didn't like the color of their skin like would have had to occur to me later, because they were just Clyde and Terry and Buck, and like I just loved them so much and still do. Like, I still have so much irreverence for them, and but like when we acquired Sheed, I was over the moon that we acquired Rasheed Wallace. And I would rep for him, like anytime there was a matchup against Duncan or Dirk or Garnett, I was constantly just like, kill him, Sheed, kill him. I always like Sheed in particular. I wanted him to have that Kobe, like, just maniacal, like, I want to be the best in the world, because Rasheed actually had the skill set and the ability and the body, and I mean, he could have been as great as he wanted to be. But by all accounts, he enjoyed the team game and he didn't like that kind of focus on him and things like that, which I still will never really wrap my head around it. So uh, but I remember like hearing that Bonzi quote like in real time. I think I read like a Jason Quick article or something, and I was like, man, this hurts. Like, I mean, I like that hurt me as a fan, hundreds of miles away. That hurt
Yeah.
me more than some of the like, marijuana busts and things like that. Like, I really, I mean, I don't want to say that I didn't like it. I mean, I didn't want them getting in trouble. I didn't want anybody getting suspended. I wanted players on the court. But when I saw that quote, I was like, "Ah, man, that kind of sucks. Like, that's a bummer." But I play flip side, just to be fair, play devil's advocate. I could understand if the city was kind of down on them for what they may have perceived as underachieving a little bit, choking in a game 7, and then that kind of snowballs, right? And then it just turns into, you guys aren't supporting us. And then you have a locker room that's not quite as tight knit as, say, winning and being defending champions would probably bring you together more. So you start to have guys kind of break off and do their own thing. Now they're getting in trouble. Now they're getting less support from the community. So I think that era was just kind of a perfect storm of a lot of things that those players on that roster were responsible for, and then there were just some things that they inherited, like the return to Rip City group, with Clyde and the guys, that's not really their fault, but it was their burden, it was their cross to bear in terms of what they inherited in a fan base, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely part of it. One of the things that's never mentioned really, I don't I'm sure the document will touch upon it, but Damon Stoudemire is from Portland. He's a
Yes.
Portland guy. Like, we traded for him, and I mean, he won Rookie of the Year, right?
Yes, with Toronto, and
In
he
Toronto?
he was beloved, and people were thrilled that he was coming back to Portland.
Yeah, so, like, I wanna say, like, oh, well, it's definitely a mercenary versus, like, a homegrown example, right?
That's a good
Because,
point too.
like, most of the guys were like that we grew up with were drafted by the Blazers, or someone like Buck, we traded for, but like, he embraced the community really quickly.
Well, it's not only
and stuff
that.
like that.
It's not only that. Think about Buck Williams' game, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
toughness,
hard
it's
lunch pail,
effort.
yeah.
Yeah, it's lunch pail, it's toughness, and it's providing the team with something that they didn't have to that point before. So I don't want to like overblow it and call him like a savior coming in, but
Right.
he gave us a belief and a moxie and a hope when he came in, and we were rewarded for that in
Yeah.
terms of how well the team did. So it was very easy to fall in love with Buck Williams. But you're right, all the other guys drafted here, and with the exception of Drexler being from Houston and Phi Slama Jama, Terry and Jerome and Duck, very famously, all from really small schools, so they're like the underdogs, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it was just kind of perfect.
Well, and then back to Bonzi, like, I mean, we drafted Bonzi, right? And so, like, that he came from a small school, Ball State or something like that.
Yeah, Ball
So,
State. Yeah.
like, like, he could have been one of those guys, right? If he embraced it, and
Well, he also
like,
got hurt.
actually,
He got hurt too.
yeah,
That was tough.
yeah. I mean, but like, he was really good,
Oh,
and
he was so good.
he could have been one of those guys, because that's one thing that Portland fans, like, I don't know if you feel this way, not being here,
Mhm.
but being in the middle of Portland, it feels like we have the reputation of caring way too much about, like, the 8th and 9th and 10th down on the roster,
Well, the
like
soccer
those type of
moms,
players.
right? The soccer moms. That's what Bill Simmons always calls
Mhm.
Portland Blazer fans, the soccer moms. And there is a little bit of that to us. I mean, look at what happens every time Jan scores a basket, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jan Hansen's obviously an extreme example, but
But hey,
even,
I live in Los Angeles, okay? When Boban got in a game, fans
yeah,
lost their minds. So there's a
right.
little bit of that on every team.
Yeah, and I mean, people really liked, Jabari Walker recently,
Mhm.
Dwap Reith. Like, there's players that aren't necessarily like high level NBA players that the fans appreciate, and they always think the best of, and Bonzi could have been one of those guys, is the problem.
Yeah.
And for people like slightly younger than us that maybe didn't grow up in that peak 80s, 90s time that we did. Like a lot of those people's favorite player now is Rasheed Wallace. And like, I don't know if a little bit of that is just trying to be cool, thinking back on it, if you would have asked like a 15-year-old kid if his favorite player would have been Rasheed Wallace back then, I don't know. But like, and then, like I said, Damon Stoudemire was from the city. Like, I don't feel like this team or this city wanted to not like these people. They wanted to embrace them. They wanted to get behind them. And then they go on this run. 98, 99 season, they make the conference finals. It was very similar to the 2019 season recently.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about that before,
including the sweep in the conference finals.
Yeah. But so I feel like this, I don't know if it's necessarily that the team or the city felt different about this group of players. I think it wasn't necessarily the failure, because I mean, failing, I mean, let's face it, the 90-91 season was a failure, right? Like, looking back on it. But like, the city didn't give up on those guys because they failed. Like, I mean, Terry Porter, Buck Williams, Jerome Kersey, those guys will not, like, Cliff Robinson, your favorite play of all time with him dropping the ball in that fast break, right? Like, no one like hated Cliff Robinson 10 years later because of that. No. Everyone loved Cliff Robinson still, like, and so, like, I don't necessarily think it was the failures. I think it was those on top of them kind of turning on the fans and acting like they were the problem, not stuff they were doing that was bad things that you were doing.
Yeah.
And even if you weren't getting in trouble with the law, like, I really want to talk about this later on, next stream, but or next video, but just watching your best player throw a towel in the face of one of your other players, like stuff like that. Like, that kind of stuff as a fan turns you off to team.
Yeah.
Or just simply, I mean, I don't know how it would be to be a Golden State Warrior fan like this last decade with Draymond Green. Just, I mean, he gets in these phases where he's uncontrollable. Like, it seems like he just loses it, and just like he's just gonna get a tee or do something bad on the court. And he's not it's not like I don't think he's ever gotten in trouble off the court for anything.
No, I don't think so. No.
But he won championships, right? They won. So, like, people forgive it or whatever.
Yeah.
But if he never won a championship and had those antics, that's like Rasheed Wallace until he got to Detroit. So, like, it's just, it's hard to, like,
completely
root for a guy like that.
Do you think if Rasheed was racking up the most technicals in the league, but the Blazers were winning championships back then, that people would have cared?
I think if they won the championship in 2000, I think a lot of this stuff never happens. Like, not that they don't get in trouble or whatever. I mean, there were some incredibly stupid and bad things that happened or whatever. But and I want to wait till the next video to kind of rehash all those individually. But I do think, in terms of just the fan base, like, being turned off by the team and kind of abandoning watching them. We had the famous sellout streak for a long time. We had made the playoffs. How many years in a row did we make the playoffs? 21 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was about that.
So that ended in 2003. So the 2003-2004 team, that was a team that had several of those guys still on it, and then became the first. Not only had they lost in the first round the previous 3 years, but then that started an era of 5 seasons that we didn't make the playoffs. And so
Yeah.
I think that combination, but if we would have won one, I think people kind of would have swept a lot of that stuff under the rug, because at least they would have had a championship, and at least you could say, well, Rashid was fiery or whatever on the court, but at
Oh,
least
yeah.
he got the job done when it mattered. And so that's why I think Draymond gets a lot of or a lot less grief than he probably should get for the way he acts on the court.
My dad told me a story one time that shout out to my dad if he's watching. My dad told me a story one time. So my dad used to work for an Oldsmobile dealership, and he was like the top salesman at the Oldsmobile dealership. And one day, and sometimes you would like do deals on the golf course, like literally do deals on the golf course, try to talk somebody into a brand new car, that kind of thing.
Right.
So one of the guys that was kind of competing against my dad for like top salesman, our golf course in the town that I lived in West Virginia, it was like right by this main road, and you could literally like look over and see people teeing off and things like that. Like the tees were pretty close to the road. And so this guy who was competing against my dad for sales, like it's middle of the week, it's like a Wednesday, and he sees my dad teeing off at like 11 o'clock in the morning with a group of like 3 other guys, and he runs to the Oldsmobile dealership and tells on my dad. He tells the president of the car lot, or whatever, the owner of the car lot, runs to him, and he's like, hey, Richard, my dad's name's Richard too. And he was like, hey, Richard, I saw Richard play golf. He's out there playing golf. What do you have to say to that? And the boss was like, well, I hope he's having a good time. And then he's like, well, aren't you going to do something? Aren't you going to say something to him? And they had the leaderboard right there. And he was like, Richard is right here. And he pointed to like the top spot of the most sold car. He's like, as long as he is selling cars, however he's doing it, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, not to compare my dad to Draymond Green or anything like that, but just that idea of like, but what comes with that is you better win. You better be producing, because if you are misbehaving and things like that, and you're not getting results, like then like bad things are going to happen. You're going to get ridicule, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah. Little side note. Go ahead.
Well, that's it right there. So you mentioned like why the team, why the fans started to turn on this team and not in the past. And that's because when you combine those two things, it's hard to root for someone who's, raped his nanny, and someone who
essayed.
has.
I think YouTube likes essay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry.
Or Swalwelled. We can call it Swalwelled. Whatever you want.
All right.
I pick on both sides tonight.
So yeah, when you have those kind of incidents and you have someone getting arrested for driving under the influence and showing his rookie basketball card and doesn't have his license, and you have,
I mean, it was ID. I mean, it did ID him.
Not only like, I mean, it's pretty known that most NBA players are known for smoking weed or whatever, which is fine, but that still doesn't excuse the stupidity of how they got caught with it and things like that. So like taking an airport with aluminum foil, like like stuff like that. And whether or not it should have been legal or not, like, it was illegal and you were breaking the law. And
Yeah.
so, and it was against the NBA policy. And, there was, if everyone was doing it, there were hundreds and hundreds of players in the NBA that did not get caught doing stupid stuff with it that would have been using it responsibly and didn't ever have any legal trouble with it.
Maybe
And
maybe
so,
maybe law enforcement in other towns are just much cooler, Eric. Like
maybe,
maybe they're just cooler about
um,
it.
but it's, I don't know. It's a case where the team started doing bad, like you said. They started failing first round exits and then not making the playoffs at all when we're a franchise that had never, like, Rich, I mean, we were super young the last time they didn't make the playoffs. So, like, we had not known
Well, that was
Portland Trail.
last year. The last time they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that was last year.
No,
I know
meant,
what you
like,
meant.
growing up.
I
Yeah,
know.
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
But anyways, like, I mean, a lot of Blazer fans, if you were there from the beginning, obviously we didn't make the playoffs until we won the championship in 77. So
Yeah.
that was the first year making the playoffs. So, you had the initial build up. But once we won that championship in 77, the norm was we made the playoffs.
At least,
like
right. At least playoffs, yeah.
that was just what happened. The Blazers were going to be in the playoffs. So to have it a team that stopped making the playoffs and the 3 years prior, after the collapse in the fourth quarter, had flamed out in the first round. So it was already kind of, oh man, this team's underachieving. But now we have this case where this team isn't even making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we have all these bad dudes that are getting in trouble on the team. I just,
and some don't even seem conciliatory about it.
Right.
They're like, we don't really care about the fans and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
I just think
this is a perfect mix. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of a perfect storm. And I also want to stress this point too. I kind of touched on it before, but I really do think that there is something to undefined roles and coming to a team where you're somebody like Steve Smith, and now all of a sudden, they're throwing a pool cue in the middle of the room and saying we're going to have tryouts. Like Steve Smith as a veteran is now competing for minutes with Bonzi Wells, and then so much so that Steve gets shipped out, and then you bring in Derek Anderson, and then you have all these, and by the way, great guys. Steve Smith, great guy. Derek Anderson, great guy. But I just think that bringing in all these guys, bringing in Dale Davis, bringing in Sean Kemp, like just playing rotisserie basketball almost, and just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. When you've drafted Jermaine O'Neal, who, I mean, granted, nobody knew how great Jermaine was going to be, but had the team been run in ways that it had been run in the past, we would have cultivated Jermaine's career. He would have, eased into a starting, he would have been a regular contributor. Then he would have gone into the starting lineup, that kind of thing. So I just think that anytime that you have guys that are kind of in an unsteady position, you have Damon Stoudemire as your starting point guard, but then you bring in Rod Strickland to come in. And I love Rod Strickland. I mean, before Ripsy Retro, I would have called this Neil before Rod. Like I love Rod Strickland, but I just think those things lead to really your chemistry takes a hit as a franchise, and then you as a player are unsettled, and you're not locked in. Everybody's not on the same page. Everybody's having to fend for themselves, think about, their next contract. Not that they don't do that already, but
Mhm.
Witsit made it much harder than it needed to be. And I'm not saying that he's the cause of the Jailblazers or anything like that, but I just hope that I hope he gets his dead flowers as well in this because I just think I think it's multifaceted. And um I'm not I don't mind. I mean, look, I didn't grow up there, but I I don't mind looking at the racial elements, and if there's anything that goes into that from and by the way, like, some of the mouthpieces should be looked at in that regard if we're talking about the media and the people who are covering the team, because that's what filters down to us as fans, right? Like, especially back then. Things are a little bit different now, where players can communicate directly to fans if they choose to, with Twitter and things like that. But um I just I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for roster construction, chemistry, and I think the lack there of it. I don't think that caused the Jailblazers era. Obviously, I keep saying era. Obviously, but I just think it's one of those little intangibles that gets thrown into the mix that added to a combustible situation. But I'm really
Well,
curious to see it.
well, you had a really good example there of, and I hate to make it this simple, but it's set up perfectly for Jermaine O'Neal to take a huge jump in the 2000-2001 season,
Yeah.
right? It was set up for him to, because Brian Grant was a free agent, and like we talked about earlier, we ended up signing trading him to Miami, and unfortunately,
Oh yeah.
he started having the Parkinson's syndrome symptoms shortly thereafter, and was never really the same. So,
Yeah.
you can say, like, we should have kept Brian Grant or whatever, and maybe we still got a couple good years out of him or whatever. But if he leaves and you just elevate Jermaine O'Neal to his role
Who was who was
and
who was killing people in
ready
practice, by the
to,
way.
he was ready.
Yeah.
So I think just that one move, and then you bring in Dale Davis, who, I mean, he's included in this era, but he also didn't do anything wrong while he was here.
No,
Or
no, no,
like, I
no.
don't, I don't think he was a bad guy or anything, and an okay player or whatever. Like, he was a serviceable big, but that just goes to your point of just throwing all these pieces at the board when you had the answer right in front of you, and that was this guy who went on to become an all-star on your roster. You're letting the guy go that is kind of blocking his playing time, and here it is, this perfect opportunity to be like, okay, we may not have made it all work with all these pieces. I'm not a chemistry major throwing them all together, but look what we still have. We have Jermaine O'Neal stepping in. We still have Damon. We still have Scotty on his last few years. We still have Sheed. We're still right there, and Jermaine is going to be the young guy that helps usher in this new era.
And you're
The answer was
giving
right there, Rich.
yes, and you're giving the community again. I mean, granted, he grew up in South Carolina and played basketball in
Yeah,
South Carolina, but he's a
yeah,
homegrown player, right? Like, you're
yeah.
giving you're giving the fan base and the community an opportunity to wrap your arms around this kid, literally a kid, 17 years old when he was drafted, you know, and we can watch his development, but we moved him on for another mercenary. And
Yeah.
I mean, not to disparage Dale Davis or anything like that. And when we got Dale Davis, I immediately was like, okay, well, that's 6 fouls to go against Shaq, because everything was about Shaq back then. But yeah, I just think these things play a role. But I'm gonna end my part of going into the doc by just saying this. I don't think this will be touched on in the doc. Okay, so this is a prediction, but The biggest problem with the Jailblazers and the biggest crime committed by anyone on the Jailblazers team was committed by a white guy, to be fair. And that was Steve Kerr. And do you know why, Eric? Do you know why Steve Kerr committed the biggest crime in the Jailblazers era? Do you know what it is?
No, tell me, Rich.
He wore 25.
Uh-oh.
Like that is a crime, Steve Kerr.
I mean, that's not his fault.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, I blame
No,
Steve
it's not.
Kerr. I blame
That's
Steve
the
Kerr.
you blame the front office.
Mm.
They still haven't. Rich,
For
they
those
still
who
haven't
don't
retired
know,
that number.
that's Jerome Kersey's number, and yeah, should not have been given to
Well,
Steve Kerr.
Rich, to be fair, Portland is very strict on who they retire jersey numbers for. So I don't know
Well,
if you know this, but it is a very exclusive company. Like it's only the best of the best. Certainly no one that averaged like 8 points would have their jersey retired.
at least
right?
we didn't retire Michael Jordan's number. Like
Right.
that the Pat Riley. Like what were you doing?
But
Like,
I will say though, I mean, what Travis Outlaw was 25.
yes,
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
other players.
I love Travis
more
Outlaw, by
25s.
the way, but still,
But why?
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like too late now that he passed
20,
away,
yeah,
but
22, 30, 25, 52, and double zero. Anyway, yeah.
yeah.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's a whole other side.
Yeah, it's a whole other side. So let's wind down the Jailblazers prediction. I wish the guys had not been on the media tour for the doc just yet.
It did seem to give away a little bit.
Only because, I feel like they're kind of giving away things a little bit, and that kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. Only because you could kind of see where it's going, especially when they're saying some of the things that they're saying. So I mean, but I get it. Like they, especially if they're proud of it, and if they feel like it does a good job of representing their side, so they probably want to make sure, like, hey, watch the doc, like it'll show you what's up, like what happened during that time. But I would have liked to have gone in with a little bit more mystery. But hey, it's not out yet. There's still a couple more hours before it comes out, so maybe it will surprise us.
Maybe
I will leave it to you. I already told you as long as we go down the Bob Whitsitt road and talk about that. And also, I would like to see the early 90s teams get a little bit of love. Not only because they're the team of my childhood and stuff like that, but I think it extends a little bit of an olive branch to that Jailblazer era collection of players, because I do think that was a tough act to follow in terms of character and things like that.
Well, if it's not extended to that era, we'll definitely do that for them, right?
Well, yeah, sure. I think we just did it. But what is a success for you coming out of the doc, and then we'll see what happens. So what would you like to see?
I'm not hopeful of this, but I would like to see the stuff that they presented in that interview and in the trailer, the direction it seems to be going, which is a predominantly white city, black players going to this white area. They were misunderstood. I mean, it literally says like, "Oh, you don't know me, you don't know where I'm from." In the trailer, and so that part of it, and then also the whole weed's legal now, so it's not bad. Like none of the things we did was bad, right? Because it's all legal now, and nowadays no one would blink an eye if you got caught smoking weed or whatever. So all that stuff is fine to me to portray, especially, I mean, I'm sure most of those players had those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, if they
And did,
really sincerely felt that way, I mean,
yeah.
they felt that way.
So I'm fine with all that. The thing is, I don't want them to just be like, I'm washed of any responsibility for myself
Yeah,
because of all those things, because Portland was racist and because uh, weed is now legal, that they shouldn't be aware enough to have any sort of responsibility or accountability. So I hope at the end, not if they do present it in that way, that they can at least say, you know, I myself could have done a better job also as at trying to give Portland a chance or fans a chance, and I shouldn't have said that I didn't care about the fans if I'm Bonzi Wells, and
sure.
I shouldn't have tried to sneak weed into an airport in aluminum foil if you're David Stoudemire and things like that. Like, I just hope they have some awareness to not completely act like they had no responsibility and no part in any of this, and it was all just people against them. But I'm not very hopeful that that will be included in this documentary. I just it'll make me feel a lot better about everything I've heard and everything I think is going to be in it if they at least are accountable for why people called them the Jailblazers.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I mean, they're you know, it's it's an oversimplification to just go that route, right? Like
Mhm.
it would be an oversimplification for somebody on the other side of that. Like, say there is somebody racist who's watching it and they just sit there and think, well, they just got bad guys. They got bad guys on the team and they committed crimes, and that's an oversimplification. Like that's an
Yeah.
oversimplification of what happened there. Just like, oh, well, we weren't accepted in a white city, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's an oversimplification too. I would, I would love to see if they are asked about, because a responsible filmmaker would kind of point out those early 90s teams and give Rashid and Bonzi and Damon especially, who grew up in Portland, give them an opportunity to be able to compare and contrast. And if they feel like there's a difference, like, oh, well, those Clyde teams had the benefit of this. And maybe they'll
Mhm.
say, there was less media, there wasn't as much coverage of the team, etc. Like, I would just love to hear, not pushback necessarily, but for lack of a better term, I guess what I'm thinking is pushback. Just that, like, well, what about this, all black starting five? And I guarantee you, none of those guys paid for any meals in the city of Portland, Oregon, back when they were going to the conference finals and NBA finals and things like that, and probably beyond that once they retired, because they were so beloved. So, but I would love to hear that. Like, I would love to hear Rashid be like, "Well, that was Clyde and them, and here's how we were different," and things like that. So I would just love to hear that. I just think a lot of times documentaries and documentarians, they come in with an agenda, and it's very specific what they're trying to do with a said documentary sometimes, as opposed to, well, let's try to unpack everything. It's the reason why our videos are so long, Eric, because we try to turn over every rock and make sure that we've exhausted the thing. But that's just kind of, how we like to do it. And um, my train of thought wanders. So um, that that kind of plays a role too. But we'll see. I'm hoping for good things. I see the things that you see in it. Um, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And I do also think jail rhymes with trail, man. So in some
Yeah.
ways, it was the perfect nickname for a team where a few guys were getting arrested. Now, Rashid did get arrested for threatening a referee. That is pretty spectacular stuff.
Yeah.
So looking forward to hearing that story. But yeah, I was shocked that they were doing this documentary. was a little surprised we hadn't got it with the 30 for 30 series. But we'll be back here doing this again. Come back on Thursday and join us, and we'll be talking more just about what we saw in the documentary and kind of breaking down some of our favorite or maybe not so favorite moments from the doc and things like that. So
I'm gonna take notes.
yeah, you take notes, I'll take notes. I have to take notes. It starts with what my name is at the top of the notes, so I don't forget. Before we get out of here, I could not let you leave without asking your prediction for the playing game on Tuesday night. Who you got? I don't even have you seen the line? I don't even know the line right now. Do you know the line?
I did not check it this evening, but it opened as Phoenix 4.5-point favorites.
Okay.
And I think the Blazers are going to get it done. I think they're going to win. And I think it's going to be in the low 100s. I'll say 112, 108 is what I said last night on stream. So I'll just stick with that.
Yeah, I feel good about it too. I've felt really good about matching up with Phoenix. Not afraid of Phoenix. Not afraid of going in there. Obviously, you got to contain Booker and keep him at a reasonable number. I think a matchup with the Suns is one of those matchups that, like, if you could tell me what the final score is without telling me the teams involved, and you just told me like a 112 to 108, I'd be like, oh, good. I feel good about that. As opposed to if it's 123 to 119, I'd be like, I don't know. I'm not feeling so good about that. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, real quick, thank you to everybody for joining us for this. I don't know how long this ended up being, probably longer than we anticipated. But
of course, like always.
Right. Boy, if I had a nickel for every time I've said that. Hopefully we've got some things out of the way. So our reaction video to what we saw in the doc will be maybe a little bit quicker. We'll see. I don't know. But anyway, in the meantime, no, it won't be. In the meantime, who am I kidding? In the meantime, please click like, share, subscribe on the video. It really helps us a lot. Eric, we're like at 778 subscribers. We picked up 4 subscribers last week, so I was super stoked about that. So we're marching kind of towards 1,000. It's a lot of stops on the highway to use the bathroom and get snacks, but we're on our way to 1,000. But anyway, we will see you guys back here on Thursday. We will review Untold, the Jailblazers, and we'll also talk a little bit about what happened in this 7-8 game. In the meantime, head over to Blazers Uprise. You can watch Tori and Eric break down the 7-8 matchup on Tuesday night. I'm going to be watching. I'm super stoked. It's post-ish season basketball again. So super. Again,
after the regular season basketball, yes.
It's purgatory basketball, people. I'm super stoked. But anyway, until next time, that has been Eric Brandt. I have been Rich Finley, and we will talk to you this coming Thursday.